Hello. All right, good afternoon. Uh, okay. We do not have any slides, so we will be more or less through the the things that we discussed. Well, of course, this is on the diesel sector. The black carbon mitigation from the diesel sector, that is the group that we represent, me and Ray. The first thing that the group came up with is that we do not need any separate framework. The black carbon mitigation from the diesel sector has to come within the ambit of National Air Quality Framework. Reason is that, well, the benefits of reducing or mitigating black carbon is overwhelmingly large, just not because of black carbon, but the co-benefits or the co-pollutants that we remove or we get rid of in the process is enormous. And so this stays in the opinion of the group within the framework of National Air Quality Framework. But what is important is to sort of rethink, redevise the national policy and regulation, so that we go ahead and improve or get the better ideas for the black carbon mitigation and not going just by the business as usual scenario. For this particular purpose, we thought that there's a need for a very clear and very lucid sort of roadmap, and which of course we discuss a lot about the Euro 4, Euro 5, Euro 6 kind of thing. And we thought that the first thing is that there are two issues. One is about the engine technology, and other is the refining capacity or refining improvements that are required. So the group was of the clear opinion for the roadmap that I'm going to briefly tell you. The Euro 4 has to be implemented, or Euro 4 has to become a reality across the nation by 2015. Then comes the 2017. Well, we might still have the Euro 4, but we sort of try to give a name Euro 4 Plus actually. And we thought that by the time 2017, call it Euro 4 Plus, and by the time the refining capacity or refining improvements must come into force, and we should be able to produce the diesel with the sulfur content of 10 ppm or less. And also by the time 2017, we should have the emission standards for light motor vehicles, which includes car. And come year 2020, the Euro 6, it means we are talking about a leapfrogging from Euro 4 or Euro 4 Plus to Euro 6. And by the time, we should also have the emission standards put into place and into enforcement for heavy duty vehicles also. The issue is that since we are talking about leapfrogging from Euro 4 to Euro 6, the argument and the reasons that the group had was enormous co-benefits in terms of reduction of CO2, reduction in other pollutants, carbon monoxide, NOx, getting rid of, more importantly, conventional pollutant, getting rid of the toxins by virtue of reducing or mitigating black carbon. So the health benefits are enormous, and even if you look in terms of the cost benefit analysis, I mean, the huge exercise will hugely favor the benefits both in terms of health and also in terms of, if I can say, the lives that would be saved because of mitigating the black carbon, which in turn would have the many other pollutants sort of removed, or the process overall becoming very efficient. So this is what is the roadmap that we are talking about. But once the roadmap is in place, we need finances. So we discussed a lot about the fiscal issues and finances. We talked, well, could there be global finances or the local finances? We couldn't really resolve that, but we certainly thought that the World Bank, ADB, and even we should sort of pursue, or we should sort of argue with the government to say, well, this is the framework, so we have to do the financial planning so that we are sort of able to adhere and stick to this particular plan. So therefore, the financial issue and the fiscal issue automatically comes into this one. We didn't we probably wouldn't have the agenda to resolve where the money would come from in details, but certainly as we plan the roadmap in terms of technology, we also need to plan the financial issues so that the finance do not come in between. The other important issue within the framework of air quality came to we have to have powerful mechanism for very strong enforcement. I mean, the kind of enforcement we have those of you from India, we call it PUC, pollution under check, that seems to, seems to have not delivered what it is supposed to, and it's very limited in terms of the pollutants. So we think that, regular checkups in some sort of vehicles, certified operation and maintenance of the vehicle, it's just not you go take it at the exhaust, measure it and say it's good or bad. So we need a proper operation and maintenance. We can start with the large vehicles first because they are the most polluting. So that certification to us is very important. And the other point we raised this morning was there's a tendency, especially in the buses and all, to remove the catalytic converters and all. So there has to be some mechanism to ensure the catalytic converters are in place and they're regularly checked, maintained, replaced. So if you know, like all the big things that we talk about, and somehow this enforcement is poor, I think we'll be undone or we'll compromise the entire effort that would go into this one. And another point before I sort of closing in was the demand side and mobility management. I mean, the business as usual scenario of sort of many vehicles on the road, which we already reaching some kind of saturation in our large cities. So this issue has to be resolved in terms of encouraging, promoting, supporting the public transport, and also sort of supporting cycling, walking, but at the same time, this has to be extremely made very safe, secured, efficient. Otherwise, this is again would not take off actually. And of course, the improvement in the air quality is necessary for people going on the cycle. Otherwise, they're exposed to high pollution level. So that demand side management in terms of reducing number of vehicles, that is an important key point. The last point we also talked about the global partnership as to how on the issue of the black carbon mitigation in the diesel sector, what kind of partnership, but what kind of help, assistance that we could possibly get from the global partners, and obviously the role and issue of CCAC came into being, and we discussed a lot about it, and we thought that not very categorically, but some sort of tie-up or some kind of mechanism where the information flows not from CCAC to also the developing countries in Asia, in Africa and things like that, and special issues and special help, if I can use that word, could possibly come in terms of the knowledge building from CCAC or any other agency for that matter, in terms of the capacity building, dissemination, knowledge, what are the best practices that could be adopted, so that we sort of promote this particular idea in developing countries as well, and possibly look at some sort of linkage, if not the sort of membership with the CCAC from the developing countries. So these were the 4 or 5 points which I tried to briefly elaborate, but there are many other issues which of course somewhat trivial, but these are in sum and substance, that's what the diesel group has to present. Yeah.
Thank you, Mukesh. I wanted to just highlight and perhaps expand on a few of the points that he made. I think he made them very well. The point about the roadmap, the policy roadmap, is that you need technologies to actually control the emissions. And it's the roadmap that forces the technologies on the vehicles, because they're not on the vehicles now. And what are those technologies? And we discussed what some of them are earlier today and yesterday. And they include, first of all, a change in the fuel, which is fundamental to the performance of certain emission control devices like the diesel particulate filter, which is what essentially eliminates black carbon, which is what we're here talking about. And devices as well, like the selective catalytic reduction, the lean NOx trap, and some of these others that are controlling NOx emissions. And you don't have full control of both NOx and PM until you're at the Euro 6 standard for both light and heavy duty, which is why there's such emphasis on the Euro 6 standard. And you're only partway there if you're at Euro 5, and Euro 4 is even further behind. So the point about the Euro 6 plan is seeing a way to get these kinds of technologies onto the vehicle. So I wanted to emphasize the technology linkage and the technology roadmap to the policy roadmap there. And there was a point that I actually raised earlier today that I wanted to raise here as well, which is the way in which this policy roadmap has more than just benefits to public health here, that there is an argument to be made about the way in which this policy roadmap actually prepares the industry itself in India to compete globally in a marketplace that is moving towards these technologies and these vehicles. And I like to emphasize the Sri Lanka example because to me it's so interesting and exciting, in fact, in the way in which Sri Lanka is already moving forward to Euro 6 and is prepared to look outside of India for its buses. Because currently those buses are not manufactured in India, and the question is, can Indian bus manufacturers continue to deliver to the Sri Lankan market if they are not yet at those emission standards? In terms of the local to global connection and the engagement there, we and I pretty much concluded that there's only one venue that's taken on the issue of black carbon, and that is the CCAC. Despite that, I didn't get the sense that there was full comfort among the group with the approach that the CCAC is taking, with the fact that India has not joined and that a number of other developing countries have not joined. And so that to me seems like an issue for countries that are interested in black carbon control and mitigation. Interestingly as well, at the same time, we pretty much came to the conclusion that black carbon, despite the climate linkage, is not going to motivate finance to control black carbon at the local level. So it's not a core strategy to bring international engagement and money. That at least that was the sense I got from the group, and maybe there are some here who feel like, well, there's the potential that it could, and I'm an optimist. I'm always thinking about what the potential is. You have to be an optimist in this field, but for those who are in our group who have decades of experience in international finance and specifically climate finance and transport finance, they did not think that we should expect any additional finance or money targeted at BC mitigation, that rather you can expect perhaps some support around the edges. So data collection, capacity building, perhaps you could integrate black carbon and co-benefits of black carbon control into existing schemes, but that it's not going to be a driver for new money. And you cannot expect at the same time any changes in the rules for finance to take into account black carbon directly. And so I think those are the main points I wanted to emphasize. So